The United States is actively considering a request from Ukraine to provide it with powerful long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles, a move that would mark a significant shift in Western military support and could allow Kyiv to strike targets deep inside Russian territory. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance confirmed the review of the request, stating that President Donald Trump would be making the final determinations on the matter. The request was formally made by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky during a meeting with Trump on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. This consideration signals a potential pivot in the Trump administration's approach, which had previously been characterized by skepticism over Ukraine's ability to reclaim all its territory and a focus on brokering a ceasefire. The administration's new stance was further underscored by U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg, who publicly stated that the Trump administration was allowing Kyiv to carry out long-range strikes within Russia and that there are no such thing as sanctuaries. This shift is attributed to Trump's growing frustration with President Vladimir Putin following their summit in Alaska, after which no progress toward a ceasefire was made and Russian bombardments of Ukraine intensified. The Tomahawk missile is a battle-proven system that has been a cornerstone of U.S. military operations for decades. With a striking range of up to 2,500 kilometers, or about 1,550 miles, it far exceeds the capabilities of any other long-range missile systems currently supplied to Ukraine, such as the UK Storm Shadow or the US ATACMS. This range would put many high-value targets across Europe and Russia, including Moscow, within reach if launched from Ukrainian territory. The missile is known for its GPS precision and ability to fly at low altitude to avoid radar detection, making it a formidable weapon for penetrating heavily defended area. Typically launched from ships or submarines, the Tomahawk can also be configured for ground launches, and its high explosive warhead is designed to penetrate hardened targets like military bunkers. The potential transfer is being structured as a sale to European allies, who would then provide the missile to Ukraine, a mechanism the Trump administration has implemented to ensure European nations have skin in the game. If you are finding this information helpful so far, please tap the like, subscribe, and turn all notifications on to stay updated with my latest world global news. Kyiv's interest in the Tomahawk is part of its long-standing strategy to acquire weapons that can seriously degrade Russia's military industry and logistical hubs located far from the front lines. Ukrainian officials argue that by being able to strike deep into Russia, they can impose a higher cost on Moscow for continuing the war, potentially forcing it to the negotiating table. Deputy Defense Minister Ivan Pavlyuk stated that if the cost of war becomes too high for Russia, it will be forced to start peace talks. President Zelensky has also suggested that merely possessing such powerful missiles could serve as leverage, noting, "If we will have it, I think it's additional pressure on Putin to sit and speak." The request comes as Ukraine endures massive aerial attacks, such as a recent 12-hour Russian barrage involving hundreds of drones and nearly 50 miles that killed 4 people in Kyiv. Ukraine believes that strengthening its long-range strike capability is essential to disrupting Russia's war effort and countering the intense bombardment of its cities. The Kremlin has responded to the possibility of a Tomahawk transport with a mix of public dismissal and severe warning. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov asserted that the missile will not be a panacea for Ukraine and won't be able to change the dynamics on the battlefield. However, he also engaged in a pointed line of questioning that hinted at the escalatory risk, asking, who can launch these missiles? Can only Ukrainians launch them? Or do American soldiers have to do that? Who is determining the targeting of these missiles? This reflects Russia's long-stated red line concerning what it views as direct U.S. involvement in the conflict. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev issued an even starker warning, suggesting that such interference could result in a war with weapons of mass destruction. Andrei Potapolov, head of the Russian Parliament's Defense Committee, stated that any U.S. military specialists who helped Ukraine launch Tomahawks would become legitimate targets for Russian force. These statements underscore Moscow's position that it would consider the provision of such missiles, particularly with U.S. targeting assistance, as a major escalation that could fundamentally alter its calculus in the conflict. Concerns extend beyond the immediate confrontation, with analysts and officials raising alarm about the potential for unintended consequences and a wider conflict. A particular worry revolves around the historical precedent of Zelensky's government employing tactics perceived as false flag, such as past drone incident involving Poland, to draw NATO allies into direct engagement with Russia. There is apprehension that if Ukraine were granted Tomahawk missiles, it might replicate this strategy, potentially using the advanced weaponry to strike European allies within the 2,500-kilometer range, then falsely attributing these attacks to Russia. Such a scenario, many fear, could inadvertently trigger a broader conflict and precipitate a third world war. Given the immediate and severe reactions it would undoubtedly provoke from affected European nations and their allies. If you have made it this far, congratulations, you have unlocked the truth. I want to ask you a quick question. Considering Putin's stark warning about big escalation if Tomahawk missiles are supplied to Ukraine, and President Trump's potential approval, given the recent Russian accusation that Ukraine staged a false flag attack on Poland, one of NATO's members, and the simultaneous U.S. consideration of sending long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, what is the possibility that Zelensky might do it again? Join the debate. We want to hear your insightful opinion on where this is all heading in our community. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video. Most importantly, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.